Lisa here, and today we're going to make something I've been craving all week, chocolate cupcakes. The recipe I use is very simple. It is from King Arthur Baking's website. There will be a link below to this recipe. Now, I half the recipe, so that means I take every ingredient and I divide it by 2. So instead of 4 eggs, I only use 2 eggs. And for 2 1/4 cup of flour, which is the first ingredient, it also gives the measurements based on grams. And I like to weigh out my dry, so I just divide that 269 grams by 2, and I end up with roughly 135 grams of flour. So what I'm going to do is, first thing, I print out my recipe. And since I'm only making half the batch, which should give us about 12 cupcakes, I am going to write down every ingredient divided by 2, just so I don't get confused. And then I'm not doing the math last second in my head. You can measure your ingredients out by volume, but I prefer to weigh them, the dry at least. So I will set this to 0. This is a really easy recipe. Make sure it's set at grams. And we're going to start off by putting all our dry in a bowl. So that will be, since I'm doing half recipe, we're going to do our flour, our baking powder, baking soda, salt, cocoa powder, and our granulated sugar. That's all going to go in this bowl, and then we're going to sift it. Pretty simple. Now that all our dry ingredients have been weighed or measured, I'm going to take a nice bigger mixing bowl. And if you have a colander or fine mesh or sifter, an actual different flour sifter, you could use that as well. If you don't have something to sift, it's not the end of the world. I would use a whisk. Remove my scale, and then we just add it. And we're going to whisk. So this is the flour, baking powder, soda, salt, and sugar, along with the cocoa powder. Now, cocoa powders vary. If you are someone that likes a really dark chocolate, you're going to want to use maybe a dark chocolate cocoa. Some people don't like the taste of Dutch processed cocoa. I am really not picky. There's a hint with this recipe, and down the line you'll see we're going to add some liquids. We're going to add milk and water or coffee. If you want a strong chocolate flavor, by all means make sure you add coffee instead of water. I know it's not going to taste like coffee, but the bitterness of the coffee is going to actually bring out the flavor of the cocoa and make it more of a rich chocolate. And when I say rich, it will be very rich. I don't think I've ever had a chocolate cake or cupcake that had this much chocolate flavor that was a boxed mix. Next step is butter and oil. So we're going to add our fats. After we have this all sifted and incorporated, we're going to add, well, since I'm doing half batch, I'm adding basically a half stick of unsalted butter at room temperature. You want to be able to really be able to touch that butter and it still hold its shape, but you can put your indent in there. I'm going to add that butter. I usually use a hand mixer when I make cupcakes, but today my hand mixer is broken and I really don't want to dig out the big KitchenAid for just a small batch of cupcakes. So I am going to do this by hand. There are 2 utensils I'm going to suggest. First off, I would say cut up that butter so it's in smaller bits. After that, a whisk is handy, and so is a potato masher. So we're going to mash this. I might use the masher first. try to break up that butter to its little tiny crumbs. It should almost look sandy. If you're using a hand mixer, which is my #1 tool in the kitchen, which is why it's broken because I overuse it, you want to just do it low until that butter is fully incorporated and you really don't see it. You're going to start to get like a sandy appearance. And as that's mixing, you're going to add your oil. And you want to add that oil into a nice slow stream. If you're using a mixer, if you're doing this by hand, just add a little. Mix and then add more. Now listen, these are cupcakes. These are very forgiving, and when you put frosting on anything, the imperfections aren't always noticed. So add a little more oil. And again, I always keep a towel, a clean towel, for my utensils, wiping things down, any messes that come up. There's always something when you're making food, and that's okay. But this way I can easily grab that spoon that I've been using and scrape when I need to. And it's a clean towel. I grabbed a fresh one, so I know nothing else has touched the towel. We're just going to keep on mixing this. There's the end of our oil. Okay, so I have spent a few minutes and took my time with the whisk and the potato masher and got a nice sandy consistency and appearance. I like it. It kind of looks like wet sand. Now we're going to add our eggs one at a time. So we're going to let one egg go in and start mixing. Always break your eggs, if you can, into a cup or a bowl separately, because if you get any shell, you can pick them out really easy, or if you get a bad egg, you're not wasting everything that you've already done to start over. All right, at this point it looks like a thick brownie batter. Now we're going to add our liquid. So I like to take one whole cup, glass, and do all my liquids, my vanilla extract, my milk, and my water or coffee. Today I'm using water because I don't drink coffee, so if there is some around or if you have instant coffee, you can definitely use that too. I put it all in one cup. And then I'm going to add about half at a time. When this is ready, it will be a relatively thin cake batter. You may still have a few lumps, you may not. It depends if you use a KitchenAid, a stand mixer, or a hand mixer, or if you're doing it by hand like me today. I have some lumps, but I have a nice glossy sheen to it as well. And I think the sheen is more important than having a couple of lumps. And tiny lumps I'm not worried about. I don't want any big lumps, because a big lump is probably a clump of butter that I didn't get incorporated in that first step when you're trying to make a sand appearance. And when those melt in the oven, sometimes they leave like a hole, or it'll almost look like it's more of a unbaked feeling in your mouth in that spot. I don't know if this is going to pick up, but that's what I have. Kind of looks like brownie batter again. Next step, you have a muffin or a cupcake pan, and put your liners in, or if you don't want to use liners, you don't have to. You could grease each well thoroughly. I recommend using papers. And I do like using just a good old-fashioned ice cream scoop. This can get messy. Just to portion it out, and you want to fill these about halfway up. I haven't found a non-messy way to do cupcake batter. If you have a method, definitely let us know. Okay, so like I said, it can be messy. So I have a couple of spots on my muffin tin. I'm going to clean those off, put them in the oven, and I'm going to bake these. I'm going to check them. It's at 350 degrees, and I'm going to check them after 15 minutes and then again every 5 minutes until they are ready. When they are ready, you should be able to, it should have a sponge-like appearance on the top, slightly domed. And if you press it, it should come back. It shouldn't be goopy when you press on it. I'm anticipating these to be done in around 20 minutes. All right, and when these are done, we'll come back and I'll show you how I frost them. Okay, so our cupcakes did take about, I'd say about 20 minutes, just like I anticipated, and they come out really easy. I've let them cool. They are now at room temperature. They've been cooling for about an hour. Nice domes. They may not look perfect on top, but that's okay because they're going to be covered in cream cheese frosting and shredded coconut. What I did was make a batch of my frosting, which is cream cheese frosting. The ingredients, it's very simple. You put the ingredients in a bowl and you mix or use a mixer. And I will put the recipe below. It is butter, cream cheese, vanilla, milk, and powdered sugar. What I do after I mix it all up is I put it in a Ziploc bag. I fill it in the cup like so. And let the air at the bottom kind of collect, and then I snip it. And now I'm going to squeeze it out. Try to make this easy. And it doesn't need to be pretty. I just want a nice layer of cream cheese frosting. And this, I don't want any of this to go to waste either. Even if I don't use it all and I wanted to, I could put it in the fridge in another Ziploc bag or in a bowl covered in saran wrap, and it'll last for about a week. So I'm just going to, doesn't need to swirl, but I'm going to, nice coverage. You could toast your coconut if you'd like. I did not toast the coconut today. If you do want to toast coconut, it's as simple as, you could do it on a frying pan, just put a little coconut on the bottom of a shallow pan and cook it on low for just a few minutes. It'll start to smell toast and get brown on the edges, or you can put it in the oven at like 300 degrees and check it every 2 or 3 minutes on a sheet pan. So just lay it out on a sheet pan, put it in the oven around 300 degrees for a few minutes, take it out, and with a spatula just kind of move it around, flip it, and put it back in, and you'll notice it'll start to crisp and toast. I just took some sweetened coconut shreds, put it on a shallow plate. So I have my frosting, and now I'm just going to cover it just like so, and I'll do another one. Squeeze out your, this is the easiest, I think, is just put a nice big glob of frosting. It doesn't need to look pretty because we're going to cover it. They kind of look like little snowballs, and it's perfect for this time of year with it being cold and Valentine's Day coming up. It's a very rich, sinfully rich chocolate cupcakes. And if you like a lot of frosting, put a lot of frosting on it. Why not? I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, please consider liking and subscribing to our channel. We put a lot of different content out, all different stuff, and we're here to help you if you need it. Thanks. Bye-bye.